It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez! Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today in our first two segments we'll be breaking down all of the stage racing action from arguably the most important one-week stage race of the year for the men's pro peloton, the Criterium du Dauphine. Traditionally, those GC riders hoping to figure in the competition for the Maillot Jaune in the Tour de France in a month's time come to the Dauphiné to fine-tune their preparations and take the measure of the men's they'll face in the Tour. In segment 3, we'll turn our attention to another race which plays an important part in Grand Tour preparation for the participants, the Women's Tour de Suisse. And no Beyond the Slipstream podcast would be complete without a Tour de France fitness building ride in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the race and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 2. Tadej Pogačar made a strong statement on stage 1 of the 2025 Criterium du Dauphine when he edged out his main rival to the overall GC win, Jonas Vingegaard, in the most unlikely of circumstances, a group sprint. No one in the cycling world could have predicted the insane action from the top GC favorites and Mathieu van der Poel on what was on paper a foregone conclusion sprint stage. Vingegaard lit it up off the front of the peloton in the closing kilometers and was followed by Poggi, van der Poel, and Santiago Buitrago. Remco Evenepoel, the third and final main GC favorite, found himself caught in arrears when the other big boys jumped and got a gap, but he took immediate action and incinerated his disadvantage in what seemed like an instant. As Benji from Lantern Rouge would describe it, he teleported back to the front group. And so it came down to a reduced sprint, and the hot favorite in this sort of situation, Van der Poel, was inexplicably bested by both Poggi and Jonas, and the Slovenian only just beat the Dane with a bike throw to the line. But after the Sunday craziness, the GC potboiler dropped down to a simmer for the next couple of days until the TT on stage 4. Justin, what were you thinking when you saw one of the best time trial specialists in history, Remco Evenepoel, destroy the field with authority on stage 4?
I thought the same thing that I keep thinking every time I watch Remco do this. I think he can actually hang with these guys. And then I realize that I just don't think that he's really all the way there. But his ride that day was utterly amazing. It was like his Olympic ride. It was like his World Championship time trial ride. You know what I mean? The guy is amazing on a solo ride by himself. I don't know that there's anybody better right now that's doing it than him. But
he absolutely is. He never loses time like when he's out by himself. I mean, let's make sure that we don't stray into spoiler territory for segment 2 in this segment, but agreed. There we were on stage 4, and like Remco just bosses the living shit out of the time trial, grabs the yellow jersey, and you're like, okay, what is the second half of the week have in store? Because like that, it was so tantalizing.
Like that. Day 1 was like that because all of a sudden you have GC guys attacking on what's seemingly a sprint stage, and you don't know, like, I mean, for me, I got super excited. Jonas attacks. I'm like, hell yeah. Like,
oh my God.
Like,
kidding?
Like, this is amazing. Like, what are we seeing here? Like, this is, okay, you know, like, let's make our presence known. And I was all for it. You know, and you get Van der Poel, who stays in the mix pretty much the whole week, always kind of doing something. He's in that group. Pog's in that group. I mean, Pog obviously has to answer. Eventually, Remco, you know, realizes what's going on and makes the catch. And
the teleportation.
Yeah, his teleportation. And you have this very, very strange beginning to what you did not expect to see on stage one. And Pog beats them in the heads up, but I mean, I'm not particularly surprised. Jonas was right on his wheel, though. I feel like another 25 meters, Jonas could have caught him.
Yeah. And I mean, just talk about absolutely the best possible opening stage that we possibly could have gotten that race. Like we could not have written it better because everyone is expecting tacked on sprint, and instead we get crazy GC action. Like all three GC guys in the mix, gone nuts off the front of the race, plus Vanderpool up there in the mix with them. It was just like and I mean every podcast I listened to on that Monday or Tuesday was just a buzz with how excited they were for this Dauphiné. Um, and it was just an incredible start to the race. It just made it so much more interesting. So then on stage two, we get what most of us were expecting for stage one,
Correct.
which was a just textbook sprint from Johnny Milan, Lidl Trek.
Yeah. UAE, kept everything in check all day. There was nothing, there was no antics that we saw the day before. And, Lidl Trek is, I mean, that front group and like how they control going into a sprint is amazing. I mean, it's absolutely, utterly amazing. So,
Mm-hmm.
the fact of the matter is, I don't think in that group, because there wasn't a lot of them there because of how hard the climbing was in the last 3 days. There's
Well,
not
there's
a,
not a lot of them in the race at all. I
yeah,
mean, there's literally there's no Phillipson, Merlier, uh, uh, any of them, Coy. Like there's no
yeah.
sprinters here. Like there's
Fred
no
Wright
one,
takes second. Okay.
no one.
That's,
Right, exactly. No one should be beating Jonathan Milan, Johnny Milan in this sprint, and it didn't happen.
no,
Like he there was no way he was losing that
yeah.
thing.
And
Um,
Milan got yellow. So hold on. I want to ask something real quick because I couldn't, nobody ever explains it. Why does Anthony McCrossin not, he doesn't call it the yellow, he calls it the yellow and blue jersey.
I had this in my notes as well. This is my guess. I think that the organizers, I mean, the race is owned by ASO, which also does the Tour de
Right.
France. I think it's ASO wanting to distinguish the two races apart, and so they basically like probably worked it into the like the new contract for 2025, like starting this year. Anytime you refer to the leader's jersey in the Dauphiné, it is to be called the yellow and blue jersey because it's not just McCrossan that said that. Like I've every person that I've heard referring to it in any kind of official capacity has referred to it as the yellow and blue jersey. That's my guess. I'm sure Reddit has the answers.
Um, but Milan to the yellow and blue jersey, uh, and we're on to stage three.
With
Hold on, I do want to make one note, dude. Uh, Jonathan Milan is crazy good looking, and even better with the beard.
It's funny you mentioned that. He is. He's got that like Chris Hemsworth thing going on, but sometimes
But
he
like
looks like a
skinny,
total like
like super skinny.
well, yeah, I mean, but he's not skinny for compared to the rest of the
Yeah,
peloton. The rest of the peloton, he
I'm
looks
just
like a
saying
freaking
compared
ape.
to Chris Hemsworth.
Somebody was talking on a podcast about like some about sprinting behind Milan or whatever, and if you're like a small enough guy, it's like literally there's not one square inch of you that's hitting the wind. You're just completely engulfed in Johnny Milan's slipstream. Um, yeah, so he had that yellow jersey, but he didn't hold it for very long. He was in the yellow suit, the top yellow tops and bottoms. But uh, Tuesday we saw MVDP go ahead in the breakaway, but get whipped up on by Ivan Romeo from
Yeah,
Movistar.
they had a ton of people in that breakaway. Obviously, Vanderpool, Lipovitz was in there, Dunbar was in there, Romeo was in there, and Tejada from Astana. And even Romeo goes with just a few K to go and is able to keep it out, and Lipovitz and Tejada take second and third.
And the thing about with Vanderpool, and this is like the curse for the Matthew Vanderpools of the world. These top level guys like that, especially guys that are clearly the best sprinter in a given breakaway group. No one would work with him. So he was just on the front of the group the entire time, and it's no wonder that when Romeo made his attack, Vanderpool had no answer. I mean, he's not as strong as a lot of guys on the uphills anyways. And then you couple that with the fact that he's been in the front of that group dragging them along all freaking day long because
Well,
none of them are going to work with him.
and the two previous days he's in the mix at the end of both of those races.
Right.
So I mean, this dude's been working his ass off for now 3 fucking days, and yeah, it's no wonder Romeo gets the better of him at the end.
And that actually puts me in mind of like our conversations in recent weeks about how like he is more of the classics guy and Wout Van Aert is more of the Grand Tour kind of a guy, where Wout can maintain a very high level day after day after day after day after day. Vanderpool struggles, I think, in that regard because he is more, Vanderpool's true deepest talents are building, building, building for that one day peak and hitting that one day, and then you can go and relax for a couple of weeks or whatever. Whereas Van Aert can come up to a level and then just stay high on that level and be getting, either be winning races or be helping guys, being crucial in the mix, being exactly where he needs to be, doing what he needs to do when he needs to do it. Um, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
I think it feeds right into what we were saying about Wout Van Aert. I think you're absolutely right. I think that
Mm.
I mean, look, you can't say that he's not built for it because obviously he stays in the mix all through the week. But I don't think that he's as effective as Van Aert is in the same role. I think if
No.
Van Aert's in this race, he takes that green jersey no problem.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Or he's at least competitive for it. But yeah, I agree. And Vanderpool's team is different too. It's not like he's got some big GC guy that he's trying to help, or he's got another sprinter that he's trying to help because like he's the sprinter on
Yeah.
Alpecin at this race. You know what I mean?
I mean, he might as well have just been a guy out there by himself, as far as I'm
Yeah, he's
concerned.
like a freelancer. I can't even think of any other Alpecin guys that have been around helping him out in this race at all. So
Yeah, not at all.
yeah, not exact apples to apples comparison, but yeah. So that of course that Romeo goes into the yellow on that stage, but he craps the bed the very next day and
I mean,
you know
come on. No, I
sheds
mean,
sheds 4 minutes to Remco Evenepoel and drops out of the top 10.
yeah,
Um, but what I wanted to mention was this is pretty cool and a very sort of like fitting happenstance. Remco's TT win on the Wednesday stage 4 was the 1,000th win
yeah.
by the team that is currently Soudal Quickstep, but is like known as Quickstep. Like that's the name of the team that was like started by Patrick Lefevre way back, like 20 something, 30 something years ago or
Remco
whatever.
was just shouting him out the whole way up through. Obviously, he's retired this year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the day. So all right. So a couple of things that I wanted to note. Roman Bardet's final time trial in his final race.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Remy Cavagna?
Yeah, Remy Cavagna.
Yeah, dude, great run. I did not expect.
That guy's a has been.
Dude, but man, what a great ride he had that day. Jorgensen had a great day. Jonas obviously had a great day. But the thing that I thought during this time trial was like, oh shit, Pog looks beatable. All right. Like,
Yeah.
he lost time to Jonas. He obviously lost time to Remco because Remco went into the yellow and blue. And you know, I I was like, we're 4 days in, and Pog hasn't just smashed this race to bits. And not only has he not smashed it to bits, he's not in the fucking lead. And it's like, yeah, he's got that stage win, but he's not there. And so I'm like, holy shit, man! Like, here we go, 4 days in. Like, are like, whew, if the tour is anything like this is gonna be fucking awesome. And you know, I guess we'll maybe talk about what happens after when we come back.
Yes, we sure indeed will. So stay with us. We'll be right back to tell you all about what happened in the conclusion of the 2025 Criterium du Dauphiné. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the race and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 3. After an opening half of the week that left us tantalizingly licking our lips for what was to come in the 2025 Criterium du Dauphiné's finish in the high mountains of France, we were unpleasantly not surprised to see what everyone kind of knew was coming: a pogcineration, a pogmageddon, a poglification. 2 stages, 2 indelible clips of Team UAE Emirates' unstoppable Tadej Pogacar, the GOAT, the Slovenian assassin, casually seated in the saddle and riding away from 2-time Tour de France winner Jonas Vingegaard with no change in the peaceful expression on his face, while poor Jonas huffs and puffs and grits his teeth and turns himself inside out in a futile attempt to hang with the greatest. Justin, I'm really starting to get bummed out. The Tour de France is gonna suck again. And the Vuelta too. This kind of blows, right?
I still have hope. I don't know. I guess I'm forever the optimist. That at some point you realize that this is the Criterium du Dauphiné, and why do you need to, why like what like do you turn yourself inside out right now and ruin any possibility of beating him in a couple of weeks, or do you just say it's the Criterium du Dauphiné, he's taking it, let him go and go from there? I was frustrated watching today and going like, come on, dude, like throw in something, put an honest attack in. And it's like, does he just not have it, or does it just not make sense? Because I can see it from the side of the team and from him, and it's just like, okay, what is the point of trying to beat him in this race? We've won this race. I've won this race. You know what I mean? I don't need it from my Palmares, and we know where he is. So I don't know, man. It's so tough with Pog because he's hard not to like, but it just makes it so gosh darn boring.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the answer to your conundrum you're talking about there is that it's not worth it. I mean, number one, like there's no possible way he lets you get enough time on him to beat him. I mean, he was over a minute ahead of Jonas. Even if
Right.
Jonas puts in some kind of attack, he's not putting a minute into Pog. It's not going to happen. This is the Dauphiné. You know what I mean? Like there's not 3 crazy hard stages in the mountains to come. Um,
Right.
so what is the point? He doesn't need it on his Palmares, you're right. And so the best that I can do to try to quell my overall feeling that Pog is just going to completely destroy everybody in the Tour de France is like, maybe this is all just part of Jonas's slow build to the Tour, and that like come the high mountains in the 3rd week of the Tour, that Jonas will be there and will finally be peaking.
Well, I think the thing that
And Pog will be worn down after this insanely long season where he's just been going and going and going and going.
the thing that
Like,
Visma Lab has to me, the only way that they can beat him is they have to take a page out of their own playbook from a few years ago, and they have to use Jorgensen and they have to use Kuss, and they've got to wear him down in the early parts of the race. Okay? Like, they have to threaten him early so that they can wear him down. Like, they have to stay with him, but more than stay with him, they have to attack him and have him expend energy that when they get to the third week that they are able to then, overpower him in the high mountains. All right. The Tour de France, and this is why I'm optimistic. The Tour de France is, they are pog proofing these races, or trying to anyway. All right, the same way that they tried to tiger proof courses for Tiger Woods. They're building these things to be hard for him. So the question remains is, because I really do believe that Visma Lab has a better team than UAE as far as support for Pogacar. All right. I think that their support staff is better than UAE's, and they have to utilize them correctly. All right, because UAE could do the same thing with I don't know who's going, but I'm assuming Del Toro's going, and
I'm looking
probably
it up right
Almeida,
now.
huh?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay,
I
so
guarantee you one guy who's going, Rafael Micah.
so
That guy is an assassin.
so you know it's the only way because if you leave it to the two of them, Pog's just gonna beat Jonas. He's just better. He's just better than everybody else. Like you look at poor Remco. Remco does the time trial, of the year so far, and he's not on. He's not in the. He's not like I keep thinking that he's on the same level as Jonas Primos and Tade, but he's not. And Primos probably isn't on Jonas's level, but Jonas just isn't on Tade's level, or at least he's not. He has not proven it since the wreck in the Basque Country. All right, it has not been seen since then. All right, and I'm not saying that he's not a good rider. He's won races. He's looked fine, but head to head, he's just not as good as Pogacar. I'm sorry. As disappointing
Yeah,
as that is,
he's had flashes here and there, but you're right. He's not. He's just not.
and
So
does it in this era? Does it matter if you win if you don't beat Pogacar?
I don't know. I mean, depends on what your goals are for your team and your own personal palmares, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
So I don't
if
know.
you're Jonas Vingegaard and you've never won the Giro, and you go to the Giro and Pog is not there and you win it, you don't care because you just got your Giro victory and it's in your, it's in your trophy room
True. This is
at
true.
your house in Copenhagen. But
So a couple
the thing
couple
about it is, I kind of disagree with you in terms of Visma having the better team because I also am not sure who's going to be there for Pog at the tour, but you're talking about Rafael Micah, you're talking about Mark Soler, Brandon McNulty, Joao Almeida. Like Almeida is arguably as good a Grand Tour rider as Remco Evenepoel.
I would
I
agree
know
with that.
I
I
know
would put them on the
Remco
same
won
level.
Remco won a really easy Vuelta. Almeida is incredible right now. So I don't know. I like I said, and Yates. I mean, like there's so many guys. Del Toro, Ayuso. I don't know who's going, but it's hard to really say
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying,
Wout Van Aert is an absolute weapon. Like they don't have anybody on their team that is as good as Wout Van Aert as a supporter in the Tour de France. But I don't know. I think the
Jorgen.
two spots are going to be
So
pretty evenly
you
matched.
know, Jorgensen is on the up. Sepp Kuss is a Grand Tour winner. All
Mhm.
right. You know, they're going to have Victor Campenarts. All right. They're going to have Perstron Hagenes, who's super on the come up. Wout Van Aert. I'm just saying, dude, this is like, you know,
Kish Minute.
they. I don't know. Those are the
What
ones
about
that
what
I'm.
about
Those are the ones that I'm
Kelder,
sure of
Kelderman
right
or
now.
Kelderman or what's his name? The other dude.
Um, but here's the thing. You know, it has to be. They have to have a plan for Pagachar. It is it nothing else, honestly, unless something happens to him. There is no other plan. It's we have to take care of Pagachar because that's the only way that I mean, that's the only way you're gonna win. Because you just can't. He can't go away. You can't put him in a position where he can go away and not be able to answer on it because that's, you know, it'll be the Giro from last year all over. It'll be the Tour from last year all over. It's, you know, it'll be interesting to see. All right, couple of notes. From stage 5. The roundabout at 1K to go. Thing was ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know
Uh,
why they put that kind of crap in there. I mean, I guess everything is kind of fair game. It's like, all there's a zillion stages that a rider's going to ride in their career. At some point, you should get to experience what it's like to go and do a 180-degree turn with 600 Ks, with 600 meters to go
yeah,
in a
it's friggin'
sprint stage. It
ridiculous.
was bizarre, but I liked seeing that win from Jake Stewart. That guy's cool, and
On
he
the
was on that crazy
experimental
new
bike.
bike.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah, yeah.
Were
Um,
you? Do you remember the bike that everyone was referring to from the Olympics? The crazy.
no.
Yeah, yeah. You should look into that. Like the actual TT, like not even TT, like track bike that bike was based off of is a crazy looking bike that Team GB was riding in the Olympics, like last summer, or maybe it was
His
the Olympics
his
before that.
speed was incredible.
And how
Yeah.
about his gesture after he won the thing? He's like he comes across and he's like doing this like gesturing towards the bike, but it looked like he was saying like check out my dick, like and he looked like he was pointing to his dick. You know what I'm talking about? Do
Yes,
you
I
remember his
do.
like little salute when he came in? That
I
was funny.
do. On stage 6, the waterfalls, dude. Holy
Wait.
shit.
Also, as far as that new bike goes, before we get to stage 6,
Sure, sure, sure.
um, did you notice in the interview the guy asked him about the new bike and he completely like deflected? He was like, "Nope, not going to talk about that." He's like, "I can't say anything about that."
No, I did
And
not.
it was like a softball question. He was like, "Oh, and he asked him regular questions and he was like, "Oh, and Jake, you won this race on the new prototype bike. What's that like?" And he was just like, "I can't say anything about that." Like literally, just cut him right off. I was like, "Oh, okay." Keeping it under wraps. All right, go ahead.
So on stage 6, they had these crazy waterfalls all over. So obviously this is the first
Yeah,
of the 3 days in the mountains. And they were doing all of these like wide camera shots of these crazy waterfalls. And I was just like, man, it was blowing my mind.
yeah, absolutely gorgeous. It's just so cool. We
Um,
need to you and I need to just get over there sometime and like I'm just gonna be on a bike and you're gonna be on a motorcycle. We're gonna cruise around Europe for like 12 days.
the
Like
that's also so that's the day that Pog attacks. Jonas can't hang with him. He's gone, and then he doubles it up and does it again on stage 7, and just keeps putting it away, and then somehow Lenny Martinez is able to to pull out the final stage win, which I was glad to see anybody but Pogacar win a mountain stage.
Yeah, thank God. And like, here's the thing: like, this guy's won so many races, and he's about to win his 100th as well, which is kind of weird. Like, how many hundreds are coming? You got Vivas getting her 100th. You got Christoph still like right there, hoping to get his 100th this year. And now you got Pogacar like narrowing in on his. There's no way he doesn't get his 100th win this year.
I mean, he's going to get into the Tour de France.
I mean, if you think about it, he's still almost at 50%. He won 3 out of 8 stages of this fucking race.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
He's unbelievable.
He's at like 47% now for his winning productivity. It's ridiculous. Here's my thing. He's bored of winning. It's like he's a robot. He's like a winning robot. Like he's just programmed to win, and he doesn't even know what to do when he comes across the finish line. And he's like, "Oh, I guess I should gesture to the team. I don't know. Put my hand." Like he doesn't even fucking know. Like at least give us the Lorena Vivas where you're like coming up with a new hand thing. Like do something, Pog. Like if you're gonna bore us to tears, can you at least put some thought into like doing something funny when you come across the finish line? Is that too much to ask? I don't think so.
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, this shit sucks.
I do think on one of those 2 days, like he was beat to shit by the time he got to the top of that hill. So those climbs were brutal. Like, and he didn't. While he was away, I mean, I think he won by well more than a minute, but it wasn't 5 minutes. It's what I mean. He was it was as close as a race has been with him in a grand or in a a stage race in a while. So it was a brutal end. I mean, you could tell how brutal it was by the fact there was no fucking sprinters in this whole thing.
Yeah, and let's give Jonas his flowers, because in the end, like he still hung in there. He kept fighting for it. He didn't give up or anything. So
no, and I think, and I honestly, this is part of his build. I honestly think that he looks better than he has in a very long time. So do I think that he's capable of winning? 100%. The question is, in the time that Jonas has been essentially recovering and getting back to the level, has Pogacar advanced himself that much further ahead of him? Pogacar's lighter, his power to weight ratio is better. Jonas is smaller, so Jonas does have that. So I mean, if it is a brutal Tour de France in the high mountains, that's where Jonas can beat him. He is beatable. We have watched him in a perfectly healthy state, crack on mountains.
This is true.
The crazy thing is we just haven't seen it happen in 2 years.
Well, I'm going to tie this conversation up with 2 points. Number one, coming out of this race, I would say that I am less excited about the Tour de France than I was hoping to be when this race started. Like, it was everybody was so excited to see the big three finally meeting together, all healthy, like ready to go. This has not raised the excitement level for the Tour de France. It has just kind of cooled it down a little bit. So that seems a shame. But we're going to finish out the conversation with a very, very fond farewell to Romain Bardet, who raced his final road race today. And he will be missed because he is a Frenchman that rode with a lot of panache. Last year, let's not forget, he won the opening stage of the Tour de France and took the yellow jersey in the swan song moment of his career.
Did you see them giving him his bike salute this morning?
Yes, I love that when they do that.
One of my favorite things.
So cool, so cool. Such a show of respect, and it's interesting too because we got the final farewell of Thibaut Pinot a couple of years ago, and that was just like so glorious and so fitting. Like when you sort of compare the two, they go along. They match very well with the riders themselves. You know, the
Mhm.
Thibaut Pinot was like so dramatic, and he's like all out there by himself for so long, and all the fans are just like lining the thing. Roman Bardet, much more low key, just like Roman Bardet is a much more low key rider, but the fans were out there. They were ringing the bells. They were, you just kept hearing, like, what I loved the most about it was like the way you would just hear these people over and over. Merci Romain, merci Romain, merci Romain, merci, merci, merci. It was like so touching. So we love you, Roman Bardet, and we wish you all the best in
Um,
your post racing career.
Remind me to bring up one thing on the team bus about
Gotcha.
about this race.
Roman Bardet, Team Bus, Dauphiné will do. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly companion podcast to the main Beyond the Slipstream show. Our domestique, if you will, dropping every Wednesday in your usual podcast feed.
Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the race and wish to remain unspoiled, please wait to listen until you've had a chance to catch up. Team SD Works Pro Time had easily the best spring campaign in 2025, with wins in two monument races, the Ronde van Vlaanderen and the inaugural Milan San Remo, as well as Amstel Gold, Ghent Wevelgem, and Brugge de Pan. But as stage racing becomes the focus in this part of the season, the team finds themselves struggling to be competitive in GC campaigns. Meanwhile, for two former SD Works heavy hitters, the story couldn't be more different. Demi Vollering and Marlon Roysa have each moved on to greener pastures, with Vollering taking out stage race wins with her new team FDJ Suez, and Royser doing the same at Movistar. And honestly, this podcaster could not be happier about it. Both of these women have seemingly found comfort, support, happiness, and success at their new teams, and the future is bright for them both. But coming off of the result in the race we're discussing in this segment, the 2025 Tour de Suisse, is Reusser the better of the two? Justin, can Marlon Reusser win the 2025 Tour de France Femme avec Swift?
A week ago, I would have said absolutely not. Demi Vollering is a better climber than anybody else, I think, in the pro peloton. These races, it's just I don't know. I want to say yes. I want to say that Puck Petersa can beat her. I want to say that Anna von der Breggen can beat her. We know that Cassia can beat her. Can Marlon Royce beat her? Yes. Yes, she can beat her, but I just don't know if any of them are as good in the high mountains as Demi is.
And also, I have to say that Demi's team is ridiculous. Like that team is absolutely slaying it right now. Slaying it between Demi, Amber Kroc, and Elise Chabet. And then you throw into the mix the woman we were talking about last week. What's her name? That is winning in the other race that the team is in. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Allie Wollaston.
Yes.
That team is totally stacked. So I don't know who SD Works has got
Anna von der Breggen.
support Von der Breggen though that can match up with those guys.
Well, and what's the dynamic going to be between her and Kopecky?
Yeah.
I don't envy that team at all.
Yeah. So I think that one-on-one Marissa is kind of right now in the form that she's in. She's kind of as good as Demi Vollering. Um,
I think
but
there are a lot of riders that are as good as Demi Vollering, but Demi Vollering is a better climber, and she has got a when she's on, like there's just not very many people that can hang with her.
yeah,
And I don't know that 4 days in Switzerland, at a race that's very home racious for Marlon Roysa, I don't know if this is the best one to say like, oh yeah, she's totally beatable. Does it make it more? Is it again vastly more interesting in the women's side of things than it is in the men's? 100%.
mm-hmm.
But I also think that Cassia, availed herself well this week as well. She beat her in the sprint today for a nice little moral victory, and she was what, a minute and a half off or something like that, maybe a minute 40 off, and she could have been in it. You know what I mean? I think she slipped in some spots where she should have held on, but
I'm hoping that Cassia is sort of in the same like place that Jonas is, where she's just in the slow build, and all of this because I mean she was in the mix on throughout the entire race, and I know she got second. She got a second, she got a fifth, and I think she got a third. So
that sounds right.
it's not a bad place for her to be as we're going back, heading into the Tour de France and her trying to defend her Tour de France. The thing I want to say about Royce though is like she's got a lot of weapons. I mean, let's not forget for a good portion of her career she was known as a time trial specialist. You know what I mean? So she can time trial her ass off, but
Well, that's
also
what happened. I mean, that's what happened today. She went in time trial mode at the end of that race and just blew those two away.
right. But let's not forget both times that she was sprinting against Demi heads up, she outclassed her like no question about it. I mean, I do think, and we might get into it here as we get into the race, that like Demi kind of blew it on stage two, I think it was. No, not
Yeah.
stage two. No, stage one actually. When Marlon Royce won in the heads up sprint against Demi on stage one, um, Demi was sitting behind her the whole time, like from 2Ks out, she was sitting on Royce's wheel, just sitting there, sitting there, sitting there. You get through 1K, she's still sitting there, she's still sitting there, and then with like 400 meters to go, Demi starts her sprinter, or 350 meters to go. She's so far out that Royce has time to just get on her wheel and just sit there in the slipstream for like 100 meters or 150 meters, and then comes around her inside the last 100 and wins with ease. Um, but then fast forward to uh, to the next day, on Friday, Amber Kroc, Demi's teammate, wins the stage, but Demi and Marlon Royce end up coming to the finish line together again, and once again, Royce just like blows past Demi with very little difficulty. So my point is that she can time trial, she can sprint in a small group setting, and she's coming better and better in the mountains. And Demi better hope that when it gets to the high mountain, the biggest mountains, the longest mountain, that is where Marlon Royce has a weakness, because otherwise I'm not seeing it.
I mean, Demi did just win a race a week ago.
I know. But so did Marlon, didn't she? Did she just win something before this as well? Oh, no,
Maybe a
not.
stage. I don't think she won an overall.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough to say. The parity is very, very close in the women's peloton as far as those guys go, and it's crazy.
It all It all bodes well. I mean, it looks like
Yeah.
Cassia is kind of moving towards the form that she needs to possibly contend. Demi is, of course, going to contend. Now you've got Marlon Royce coming out making a very serious case that she can contend. Of course, you've got the whole SD Works situation with Von der Bregen and Kopecky. That's, if nothing else, that's going to lend a lot of intrigue and interest to this competition. And then the outliers, you've the Eliza Longer Borghinis of the world, the Noemi Rugs of the world. What could these women do? So
Puck.
going into that versus going into, Pog's just going to destroy everybody on the men's side.
The,
I'd say
the only
I'm a bit more
question, can
excited.
Jonas beat him?
Right. I'd say I'm a bit more excited for that's
How about the sprint on stage 3?
how about the iconic ponytail of Elisa Balsamo? Like, if from a helicopter shot from a mile above the peloton, you can see that ponytail laying across her back like a like a black snake. I mean, the thing is just enormous. I'm in love. I want to follow Eliza Balsamo's ponytail on Twitter. I mean, on Twitter, because I love that thing.
No, I'm with you. She almost lost that sprint, dude. Like, she kind of came up too late and
She got so lucky.
barely,
So lucky.
barely won that race.
So lucky. This is how much she won the race by.
Yeah.
That much. It was not even the tire in the rim. If you saw
And it wasn't even like a celebration thing. She just let up too soon.
Well, she led up to, she thought well, I should say, she knew she had it won. Since she won, you can say she knew she had it won. And she did let off the pedals a little bit, and she threw her arm up at the end. And I think she was underestimating how far ahead she was of Bredevald. But that's actually a good matchup right there, those two. Misha Bredevald and Eliza
Balsamo.
Yeah, Balsamo. That's kind of a great matchup, because I think, if Lorena Vivas is there, she
Blows them both out of the water.
but in the absence of Vivas, Bredevald,
Let's be
Balsamo is
honest.
great.
Like, if Vivas is in the mix, she's probably going to win. She is the Pog of women's sprinting.
Absolutely.
I mean, you gotta catch Lorraine Weedus on an off day.
For sure. I did want to mention, we were talking earlier, Cassia was kind of in the mix throughout this race, and she has her way of frustrating us, because we're all rooting for her all the time. She's so earnest and everything, but I do want to say, like, I just like watching the way that she rides, the way she is on the bike. She is always like, she's just got this this youthful energy to her. She is always like up out of the saddle, and like when she's throwing in attacks, like she's just like moving, and I don't know,
She
there's
looked
something
good this
about,
week, dude.
yeah, she looks so good, and she's got like panache, She just,
I don't think her
it's
time
like physical
belies
panache.
how good of a race she had.
Yeah. So, fingers crossed for her. I mean, I would love to see her defend that title. For her to become a two-time winner, God, that
Well,
would
especially
frustrate
this
the
year with
shit
the field
out of a
that's
lot
going
of
after
people.
this race.
Yeah. If she could somehow, she just needs to, just lay back. She needs to Yates it. She needs to Simon Yates that race. That's how she wins that race. She Simon Yates it.
Picks her spot.
But
yeah.
Yep. Hangs on till the end, and tries to get it done in the end. Well, pretty good race.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it. Some good action between Damie and Marlon, and I like it. And I will say this too. I love how convivial the two of them are. I mean, they're both from the same team, coming out of the same team. So they are uniquely positioned to understand each other,
Hmm.
even though Vollering has arguably had the bigger career, but they're both in very similar situations. Left SD Works onto new teams, and they're both finding a lot of success and happiness, like we said in the intro. And they're friends. They've been teammates for years. They know each other, and I some people, some pundits, some critics in the cycling world do not like the way that the riders are so, you know, glad handy with each other at the ends of the races and stuff. And like, back in the day, like why we hate, the opponents hated each other. I'm not gonna hug my opponent at the
Yeah.
end of the thing or whatever.
Lance Armstrong is one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And like I freaking like it. Like I think it's cool. Like that. I
They're
don't think it.
brothers and sisters in arms, dude. Like they do these incredible feats of endurance, and they have mad respect for each other. So
Yeah, yeah. And I also think though that they are grounded in a sense where they sort of understand that like we're very blessed to live these lives where we get to race bikes for a living, and this is amazing. And so if my really good friend beats me one day, I I can just I'm capable of being happy for her. You know what I mean? And that's a beautiful thing.
do you think that it has something to do with the fact that there isn't widespread cheating in the sport anymore?
I would think so. Yeah.
I guarantee that plays into it. Because can you imagine? Do you how much respect for a guy can you have if you know for a fact that he's cheating and he's winning?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, it would have
maybe it is a byproduct of their not but maybe it's the byproduct of the fact that the doping programs that they have now, or the test and the stringency that they have on
protocols,
doping
yeah.
now is being handled at such a great level that it has created a breeding ground of racers that have a lot more respect for each other because they understand that they're all going through the exact same thing.
Yeah, I would think so. I also think it's a function of like just the younger generation. I
Hmm?
just think, I mean, because if you look across all different types of sports, you will find a very familiar through line of like millennial players and Gen Gen Z players and Gen Alpha players on sports teams that are just, you know, making much more like self-care based decisions
Hmm.
and having a much better sort of like work-life balance. And I think the ability to maintain friendships with rivals and stuff like that in professional cycling
A
and
lot
professional
less
cycling.
toxic masculinity as well.
Yeah, yeah, just and like less like competitive toxicity
Hmm.
as the as the drug induced toxicity has lifted from the pro peloton in the past decade. Um, so has a lot of the mental
Yeah.
toxicity, it seems, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, I
So
mean, these teams are smart enough to understand that it's a multi-pronged approach of mental health, body health. It's all that it all goes together.
hmm hmm so to tie this back in with the end of our segment two conversation, I would say that I'm far, far more tantalized and excited for the prospects of the women's Tour de France 2025 than I am on the men's side after watching this race. So unless there's anything else you want to throw in,
Nah, I'm good.
we need to
Nope. I'm
put a bow on this one, and we will be right back for a little old ride in the Broom Wagon. Stay with us. All right, we are back and we're taking yet another Wagon, and Justin, what you got for us?
In honor of us recording on Father's Day, I wanted to just read something that I wrote this week about my father. Today is Father's Day, and in thinking about how much I miss my father, I'm given pause to think about if he was still here today. If he was here, my father would be appalled by the direction this country that he served for half his life is going. He would be appalled at how people are treating and being treated by each other in the government. My father was born poor in rural West Virginia, the son of a farmer and coal miner in the Depression era in 1936. His ancestors were Scotch-Irish settlers who tamed the wilderness in a foreign land to build a new life away from the persecution they had experienced at home. They left their home for a chance at a better life, a free life. My grandfather died from cancer at an early age and left a wife and young children to fend for themselves. My father joined the Army and helped support his family. During his off time, he would often travel to New York City and visit the legendary jazz club Birdland in Harlem, a skinny white kid from West Virginia in Harlem in the 1960s. He was a jazz fan, and there was no better place for jazz at the time than Birdland. He didn't care if he was white and it was a black club. He just liked jazz. When his Army service ended, he went to work for the U.S. Department of the Interior in Alaska, spending time working for the National Weather Service. He returned to the East and went to college in the D.C. area, where he met my mother. Shortly thereafter, he got a job with the U.S. Department of Defense, working as an engineer at a Navy testing facility in Carteret, Maryland. He spent the next 40 years of his life as an employee of the federal government. All of this is to say that in spite of the place that he came from, my father became a man of integrity and love. He loved his wife, his family, his neighbors, his God, and his country. He followed the teachings of Jesus every day. He was a heavy-handed disciplinarian, but he was molding 3 sons in an ever-changing world that was not always aligned with his beliefs. His beliefs are what shaped him to be the man that he was. He was never a bigot. He never shunned someone in need. He donated to just causes and spread the word to God to many people throughout his life, always being an example of what he wanted to see in the world. If he was here today, his heart would hurt seeing that this country he loved and served is becoming. He would be appalled that our government is waving the banner of Christ at the head of a regime that is anything but Christian. My father taught me how to be a father and how to be an example of kindness and empathy in the world. He taught me to love everyone because we are no different than each other. He taught me that no matter what you believe, you have a worth in this world. He taught me right from wrong. I'm glad he isn't here to see the pain and suffering that's happening all over the country right now. I miss him, and I hope he found peace in the end. I love you, Dad.
Wow, that was fantastic. I in our shared show notes file, I scrolled down and I saw that you were putting something in there having to do with our dad, and I did not read it. I did not spoil myself because I was like, you know what? I think he's going to be cooking up something good here, and I want it to be a first time listen for me, and that was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I really commend you for that, and I agree. I agree with the sentiments that you're making as far as what's going on in this country these days, big
Yep.
time, because it's a hot mess. It's a dumpster fire. What's happening in this country?
That is for sure.
So for my broom wagon, as I said, I kind of saw that you were going to be talking about that, and I was like, you know what? That's nice. I'm going to take a page out of your playbook, and I will talk about that too. And I'll keep it a little bit lighter. But
I
I have.
saw your topic, and I have my own little input on this. So go. So please,
Okay,
please
good.
do
Yeah,
share.
this is good. Actually, it actually should spawn a conversation. Fantastic. Um, but I do have to go back and just say, well, that's a beautiful piece of writing. Like, you did a really nice job with that. I really especially liked how you incorporated the jazz, the stuff that he was into, the jazz and stuff, because that's like one of my, that's like to me, when I'm working, like when I'm at work and we get on the subject of dads, especially if I'm talking with like older African American men, and I'm like, yeah, my dad used to go to Birdland. That's just like street cred right there. You know what I mean? Like I love that fact about
Oh
our
yeah,
father.
it's crazy.
It's so cool.
It's
Um,
crazy.
so, so I was like, so I saw that you were going to be talking dad. So I was, let me bring this back to the theme of this podcast, which is cycling. And I basically went back and dug up every memory of dad that I have that surrounds bikes, right? So I can say that I have no recollection of any awareness that dad may have had about professional cycling, like when I was a child. Like I have no recollection of him ever talking about Greg LeMond or Eddie Merckx or
Dude, if it wasn't golf and football, like it
right,
wasn't.
right,
Yeah.
like none. I'm sure perhaps it came up in one conversation sometime when something popped up on the TV when the ABC Wide World of Sports was on in 1981 and like something. I have no idea. So there's no recollection there. I mean, I'm sure he knew who Greg LeMond was. So, um, I do remember the bikes that mom and dad had when we were kids.
They were
Dad had,
Schwinn's.
yeah, they were Schwinn's, and dad's was like a big old brown like Schwinn Cruiser. And I actually think about that bike a lot when I ride the cruiser bike that I have now, which I also want to get into if I can. Although maybe I should save this for the team bus. But anyways, dad had the big brown Schwinn Cruiser, just a comfort, like just a comfort machine. You know what I mean? Wide handlebars, and then mom had this sort of women's version of that. She had the bike basket with the daisies on it. I remember that. Um, I that big brown Schwinn Cruiser. I really in a big way kind of credit that bike and with me sort of like my adult love of riding bikes, and here's why. So I so here are the bikes that I had in my life. The first bike that I learned to ride on was like a little red bike. It was like a little just kind of red child's bike. Um, and I do have an indelible memory of dad like pushing me on that bike on the street on Van Dever Court when I was like 6, learning how to ride a bike. So that's deep in the brain pan, which is kind of cool. Um, and then the next bike that I had was a Schwinn white 10-speed bike. It was like a teen sized frame. It wasn't quite a full adult frame, but it was like the next one down, maybe like a 24 instead of 26-inch or something
Did
like
it have the
that.
drop
Um,
handles?
had drop bars, yeah. And that was kind of like my bike throughout, like probably through like middle school, and then by high school, I wasn't riding bikes. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't part of my thing.
You,
Um,
you
or
got the
maybe I had
Monte
that.
Carlo and you were
Well,
off.
maybe I had that bike like for freshman year of high school, sophomore, something like that. But like at some point, like I wasn't into it. And then there came this long period of time when I I wasn't riding bikes. And then sometime when I was in college, I remember coming home. I think it was like it may have even been as late as like Easter break of my senior year of college, right? And I came home. I was home for Easter break at mom and dad's house, and I was a weed smoker, and I had some pot with me, and like I don't have a job. I'm home for a week at mom and dad's house. They're off at work every day, and I'm at home, and I will never forget this one day. I like got all stoned, and I jumped on that bike of dad's, that big brown cruiser, and I rode off through Olney Mill. I popped out Greyhaven Manor Road onto Brookville Road, and I rode all the way down Brookville Road and came looped back around.
Like up through
Um,
past Longwood.
no, like down Brookville, not that way, the other
Oh,
way, like
towards
towards
108.
yeah, and then came back on 108, and it was raining part of that day as well, and I was worried I was going to slip and slide, but at the same time I was like super high, and I was just like, "Oh, this is so cool." It felt so good because those bikes, they're so comfortable. Like when you're used to riding on like a regular road bike like I ride all the time, when I get on my cruiser like I was on today, it's a couch. It's like laying on the couch. And that's the way Dad's bike was. And I had such an incredible time that day on that bike. This just feels so good out here. I'll never forget that bike ride. And like a year later, I'm I'm getting ready to like move downtown with my buddies into the house downtown, and they're all getting into mountain bikes, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting a mountain bike. And from then on, like, my adult love of cycling happened, but it was because of that big brown bike. So
So
um
my memory of that big brown bike is that. So the first thing is that they would take the bikes down to Hilton Head every year. All right, and when I was little, he had a bike seat on the back of that thing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he would chuck me in the bike seat,
Do you
which,
remember being in the bike seat?
yeah, God, yes, because
Crazy.
bike seat is terrifying.
But that's so young. You be in that thing.
I have that. I remember when when we got evacuated out of Monarch in the middle of the night. Anyway,
For what?
there was like somebody pulled a fire alarm. It might have been one of the times when you weren't there. It might have only been me and Andy. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember riding that bike seat, in the dark, because like they would ride those bikes to Harbor Town, and we'd ride back after fireworks in the dark, and I'd be in that bike seat with zero control, just like, you know,
That's
being
crazy that you can remember that, dude.
like bounced around. Oh yeah, I remember hating it and then eventually loving it, and then that turned into, we would bring the bikes down, and we would always go, again, when I got older, we would ride bikes, and we would ride to Harbor Town together and then ride home at night in the dark. And we did that for a long time. I can't remember like when we would have stopped it, but um that, and for me, it went from my He-Man bike, and then I rode, a couple of like hand-me-downs. I had like a hand-me-down, like black bike with mag wheels, like a BMX bike that I
Mm-hmm.
would like, try to spray paint and like do different things to. And I remember like the frame on that bike broke on me, and then they bought me a Huffy White Heat for Christmas. And it was like the TV bike, and they bought me the Huffy White Heat. Piece of shit. Had the worst derailleur that I've ever seen on a bike. I mean, it was just, the hardware on that bike was utter garbage. Lasted for like 6 months, and after the 6th month, you'd be riding along, and it would just chunk into another gear. It's just the absolute fucking worst. And I don't know. I had a couple other bikes after that. I can't remember. Those are the ones that I remember like very, very vividly were those two bikes. But like mom and dad were great about making sure that we rode bikes, and But I definitely remember that big brown Schwinn.
Yeah, that was a cool bike. Well, let me round this out by quickly running through for this Father's Day what my Father's Day consisted of today, which was uh, woke up, did a little podcast prep, caught up on a couple of races earlier this morning while the wife was still sleeping, and then woke her up around 9, threw the family in the car, threw the bikes on the bike rack. We went off to the College Park Diner, had a wonderful diner breakfast. It was 95 freaking dollars to go eat at a goddamn diner. Prices have gotten completely out of control, but it was totally delicious. It was exactly what you want out of a diner. And then we drove like a quick mile away from there, parked on the side of the road in a little parking lot, jumped on the bikes, and we went down the Paint Branch Trail. This was like where Randolph Road, which is actually Cherry Hill Road at that point, kind of meets with Route 1 over by University of Maryland. And you get on this paved trail, and it goes all the way down. It goes like right through the heart of the University of Maryland. You go up like underneath a bridge, and it's really cool environs. Then you go past this like golf course, and there's a bunch of bridges that you go across, and then ultimately you go all the way down to there's a lake down there. It's called like Lake Artemisia, and you can ride around the lake. And there's like a peninsula that goes in the middle of the lake with gazebo and all kinds of stuff. I mean, we went down, we stopped all over the place, took a bunch of pictures, and just like hung out. Took it super easy. I mean, it was completely flat. The entire ride was completely flat. And then on the way back, we stopped off and got like Italian ice at like Rita's Italian ice. That was just like right off the trail on the way back. And then back to the car, and then came home. I went out, I grabbed some groceries, and then for dinner, my wonderful wife made tuna tartare with wonton crisps, grilled salmon, wasabi mashed potatoes, baby bok choy, little Asian slaw on top, and like sauteed mushrooms, like this like rich like sauteed mushrooms, restaurant quality food. It's always so nice when you make one of those meals at home that's like restaurant quality. I know you've been there many times where you just sit down and you're just like, oh yeah, I'd pay $27.99 for this dish that's right in front of me right now. It was so good. So a perfect Father's Day. I'm so glad that cycling was a part of it. My wife and kids were complete troopers. You know how far we rode today? 9.2 miles.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. None of them could believe it when they got back there. How far did we ride? I was like, guess what? You rode 9.2 miles. It was cool. So, yeah, a great Father's Day. Sounds like you had a pretty good one as well.
Yep.
Including an amazing cake that your wife made for you that you sent me a picture of. Describe that cake for us, and then we're gonna.
So it is. She made. So it's just like a regular, like white cake with buttercream, and she put like a chocolate like fudge in the middle. But she sculpted the cake to be a hill ride. So she made little chocolate bicycle men. All right, one of which had a yellow jersey. All right, and she shaped the round cake so that
was it a yellow and blue jersey?
No, it was just yellow. Shaped it so that it was like a hill, so they were like going up a climb. All right, and at the top she built or she like made a finish gate, a finish line at the top of the cake. And it was all decorated and looked, green, and there was a road, and it was freaking awesome. Like it was very, very creative on her part.
Pretty awesome. We got an awesome couple of wives, that's for sure.
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, that's all for this week. Please join us next week for full coverage of the men's Tour de Suisse, Tour of Belgium, and Route Occitanie, and the women's and men's Copenhagen Sprint. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon on another ride beyond the slipstream. Ale!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!